Well, hi everyone, and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box, where today we're talking about what I consider to be the very best comeback album of all time, in a musical sense, in a metaphysical sense, in a personal sense. And this is, of course, an album released on this day in 1984, Tina Turner's Private Dancer. Before we get into what makes the album so special, let's talk about what happened just before. Now, obviously, Tina Turner burst on the scene in the 60s as one of the most captivating vocalists and all around entertainers in the world. Her popularity was global. To see her was to love her. And she was, of course, part of a very tight musical unit called the Ike and Tina Turner Review, married, of course, to the band's leader and guitar player, Ike Turner. They had a lot of success together with original material and very popular covers. They did Proud Mary, originally by John Fogerty and Creedence Clearwater Revival. They had a huge international hit with River Deep Mountain High, and the list, of course, goes on. But while the image of the loving couple and the gregarious wonderful dancer, wonderful singer of a wife was the image presented to the world on television, in magazines, and on radio, and the rest of it. Behind the scenes, it was, as we know now, a very different story. Tina was in an abusive relationship and she essentially had to run for her life. In 1976, she got nothing. She wasn't the litigious type. She just knew she had to save herself from a really bad situation. She continued to perform on television, to perform live, to release albums, but the record companies weren't helping her out. These were the days before self-promotion was really a thing. You needed the record labels behind you to get the billboards up, to make sure the record stores put your albums in the front when they were released, to make sure that the radio stations played the albums. And we all know about the corruption that was involved in that. Play the songs rather, but you know what I mean. And they just didn't. They didn't believe in her. She was someone that went through hell, and rather than getting any support from the industry side of the music industry, they pretty much kicked her to the curb a second time. Of course, the artists of the music industry, the musical part of the music industry, always loved her. People like Rod Stewart, Mick Jagger, Eric Burdon, huge fans of hers, and she continued to perform with many great luminaries of music. But she was always destined to be a great solo artist because even when she was with Ike, it was her show. Everyone knew that. Maybe that was a source of his jealousy. We don't really know, but it could well be. An interesting interview of the two of them in the mid 70s on the Johnny Carson show is very revealing in that respect. But she never gave up. She knew that her voice was as good, if not better, than ever by the early 80s. She could dance as good, if not better, than ever. And she was ready to take on a unique project. And this is when Private Dancer came together, first recorded in 1983. And it was not only the best comeback album of all time, but the perfect soulful album for the early 80s. It had the perfect mix of songs everyone knew and loved, done in what was then the contemporary style, played by the best musicians in the business, produced impeccably well. And of course, it had some songs that were new to audiences. What's Love Got to Do with It was a big hit. And my favorite song from the album was, of course, the title track. What a performance she gave on the title track of Private Dancer. A song that it's one of those songs that it's impossible for anyone really to keep a dry eye when they listen to it. It tells a story of perseverance, anguish, despair, difficulty that, although specifically different than Tina's story, is nevertheless one with some eerie parallels. Her vocal performance, second to none. The composition by Mark Knopfler of Dire Straits is the kind of thing that you could almost envisage being sung by Knopfler as part of a Dire Straits album in a very different way. It's sort of one of his story songs, where instead it's sung from a first person vocalist, from the perspective of Tina Turner. And even though she didn't even know the meaning of the song when presented with the lyrics, she nevertheless made it her own. And I actually find that story rather endearing because for all she'd been through, she retained an innocence of heart, soul, and spirit, so much so that a song about prostitution and the difficulties one faces in that particular profession, she wasn't even aware that that's the reference, that's the metaphor, that's the innuendo in the lyrics. And I think that that again shows part of a spirit of perseverance. She never really lost sight of who she was, a young girl who wanted to sing, wanted to dance, and she ended up doing so into her old age because she never gave up. That's why this album, apart from being such a great piece of musical work, is the best comeback album of all time. Because while others have come back from critical failures or personal failures in the artistic realm, or personal hardships that they may have brought among themselves by indulging too much in the fun lifestyle around them, with Tina, it was completely through no fault of her own. She was a victim of bad circumstance. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong person and had zero help from the industry, and yet came back so big, bigger than ever before, 5 times platinum, and people are still listening to and streaming these songs on the album. And of course, this set her up for another 35 years or so of a consistently popular and acclaimed career. It just shows you that when industries let people down, when the people who own these societies of ours let you down, always persevere. And when you do, the good people, the creative people, the inventive people, the original people, the compassionate people will slowly but surely come your way. And that's what happened with Tina Turner, who could have easily faded into obscurity, easily faded into poverty, but instead she solidified and built upon a great musical legacy and received all of the success she deserved for long before. But it all came at once. When it rains, it pours, and it really did pour well deservingly for someone who said, I can't stand the rain, a wonderful cover of the People song from this album. So, happy birthday to the Private Dancer album, and long live the Queen of Soul, Tina Turner. Like, subscribe. We will see you next time. Take care.